So Tom, it's great to see you here. So what possessed you in 2020 to take over as the CEO of JetZero, having been already a successful entrepreneur at a number of startups, including Tesla?
Well, you folks here just saw the pictures of the plane, and I think that was, like anyone, the most compelling thing. The more you dig into what's behind an all-wing design, the better it gets. So 30% aerodynamic efficiency, the ability to hit the mid-market where there is no plane. It was really, the shape of the aircraft is really the gift that keeps on giving. So I was compelled to do that, and I just feel like there was so much. I'd never seen a product market fit like this. You know, I worked in automotive prior, been in aviation for 10 years. I was responsible for go-to-market strategy in some part, and there were many people, but that was the key focus of my role at Tesla. And I was used to people saying, okay, that'll never happen. But I just saw, it's just about the belief in a disruptive technology and what a small group of committed individuals can do to move that technology forward, so for sure.
So how did you go from that to bringing on board Alaska, Delta, United as early prospective sponsors of this aircraft?
Yeah, so that's the customer, right? And really that was the key to the founding, right? Was in this, you just heard Matt Bird say, the golden age of aviation. And I agree with that completely. And I felt exactly that in 2020 as much as I do today. There were all these things happening, supersonics and eVTOLs we've heard a lot about today, and I love those projects. I worked on an eVTOL program prior to this. But I just was left with the sense that there was no innovation from an airframer perspective that was speaking to the core need of the customer in the market, which was to lower fuel burn and emissions. And then the next piece became, wait, once we change the shape, we have the ability to reevaluate everything about how we engineer the airframe. We get to use, you know, largely existing equipment from the supply chain, which is a benefit to them. We get to hit the middle market, which is another benefit to the airline. So it was really by taking this customer first approach, right? And that's the difference, right? Because it's a business to business deal. So to be able to have a product that really meets the customer's number one business problem, that's where you start to unlock value.
So, I mean, that raises the question, why hasn't this already been built? Why is now the opportunity for you to step in and build something that no one else has built before?
Yeah, that's the most common question that we get, right? If it's such a great idea, then why hasn't it already happened? Like, why wouldn't have somebody built this before? And we heard from Guillaume earlier today, and I think he answered that question already, right? He said 8,700 aircraft in the order bank. What is that, 10 years of production? So that's a disincentive to change configuration and heap risk upon what looks like a juggernaut, right? I mean, that's pretty commonsensical. But it's not really the technical reason, right? It's about, and you heard Phil LeBeau and Scott Kirby, who has already made an investment in our company and ordered aircraft. The question becomes, well, what about the time frame? And so I think the time frame solves itself when you have the committed, experienced individuals who work just like any team. Any team that you've ever seen in success, you know, in a lot of senses, sports defines us as a nation. Any team that is successful, they don't start a game thinking about, is it possible for me to win in the championship? They just say, that's what we're here to do, and we do that by winning one game at a time, and we win one game at a time by executing on one play at a time. And as long as you have talented individuals who are willing to work harder and commit themselves to that kind of a process, that sort of, you know, the doomsaying fades away and the can-do mentality just starts to come forward, and you start getting into a rhythm and a flow.
So how do you make sure that, you know, what you're building is what the customer wants?
Well, we invite them in, actually. So this This week, actually, it would be our 4th airline working group. We have more than 20 airlines that we've done a deep dive with, and we'll have 15 airlines in our hangar for 2 days for the 4th time. Each of those sessions focuses on a particular area of the aircraft. So this one's on cabin experience. So we're looking at all sorts of things, seats and labs and galleys and all the things that help them. I mean, ultimately, as an airline, you're delivering a ticket price, destination, between 2 points, you're delivering an experience. And so that cabin is such a huge part of that. And so we couldn't hardly be more excited to put them in a full-scale mock-up of the aircraft and to get their feedback. And what better way to understand your customers' needs? I would just add too, because I think it's on the tip of my tongue. We're not at this isn't a pitch. This isn't a 2-day pitch from JetZero. We're there to listen, and we're there to understand as much about what the right questions are to be asking in the design process as we are to solve the problem. It's a patient process. It's a patient impatient process. We're still shooting for the goals, but.
So a lot of people in the audience, I suspect, are thinking, okay, this guy's up here talking about building a new aircraft. Everyone's familiar, right? The last 20 years of established OEMs struggling to produce aircraft and or OEM, either airframers or propulsion engine manufacturers, to put it all together in a product that can be on time at an affordable price and perform. Why are you confident that JetZero will succeed?
Well, I've had the experience of doing this before with other companies, and I understand completely that this challenge is, there's a higher regulatory challenge. You can say, well, Tesla, SpaceX, Anduril, right. There's lots of new companies we've heard from today. We've heard from Archer, we'll hear soon from Boom. We're not the only company that's looking to do that, but this is a unique challenge. It's a regulatory challenge. There's the entry into service and a service. This is a challenging endeavor. What makes us confident is that we have the technology, right?
And how old is that technology?
Well, I mean, 30 years of NASA development. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we were emboldened for 2 guys, as you said, to start myself and Mark Page, to start the company in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic where there's only a global duopoly selling big jets. And we're like, okay, we're going to sign up for that. What would compel you to do such a thing? And the answer is pretty simple, what I've already mentioned, but also that NASA had invested over $1 billion in the 3 enabling technologies, which are flight controls, structures, and flight controls, structures, and the aero itself. I forget about that because it's like the nose on your face. It's the elemental part, the shape of the aircraft. So they had already put all this into it. And really all that was lacking was people with a conviction that this future is not impossible, it's inevitable. It's only a matter of the time frame, and therefore, if we're committed to solve for that time frame, we can be successful.
So let's talk about what you've achieved so far. Why don't you go through that? What's your record? Are you on time, under budget?
Yeah, it's right. What are the wins? I was saying, you got to stack up a bunch of wins to get to the finals and then win the championship. So what are the wins? We've had some big ones this year. Commercially, I mentioned United became an investor and orderer following Alaska, who had done so the previous year. We heard from Ben Menicucci, and you heard his goals. Operational excellence was one. Customer experience was another. We think we can do an amazing job of helping with that. His new destinations were pretty interesting. So Delta has also come in with big support, both in terms of equipment that they've donated to us for our full-scale demonstrator that'll fly in 27, but also with investment towards the cabin development that we'll be reviewing. A lot of that work was done in conjunction with them. So those are huge, huge wins for a company like ours. To bring the best airlines in the world into the process of innovation, that's just an amazing gift, really. And
well, why don't you speak to North Carolina? That's your last big announcement recently?
Yeah, well, first, on time and under budget. We cleared, you asked a good question, which is, are you on time and under budget? We completed our critical design review for the Air Force, with the Air Force and NASA, but they're the customer for that. And that program, I mean, how many programs, how many program managers are walking around the Pentagon waving their hand yes to, are you on time and under budget? It's not common. And so we could hardly be more proud of that. But North Carolina, this is I think the biggest, most massive win. I mean to say, best factory incentive package in the history of the world. How would you make such a claim? Biggest for a startup, biggest in the state of North Carolina ever. But it wasn't really just the quantity of it. It's the quality, the color of. It's not just 30 years tax abatements, $4+ billion. That's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. It's tied to job growth. That's a big part of this administration's agenda. It's that the commitment of the community and to the upfront, right? All the universities, right? The airport, the infrastructure, and they really want this project. And I believe that community in Greensboro, which has seen tobacco and has seen textiles wane. They look to a history of North Carolina being first in flight, and they want to make that now the present and the future of North Carolina.
Let's go to first flight of the demonstrator and the linkage to the U.S. Air Force contract.
Yeah, that demonstrator, so it's demonstrate the aircraft at full flight, demonstrate a commercial aircraft, because the benefit to the taxpayer, sometimes people confuse that. They say, there's a need for a tanker, a transport can be a cargo. Yeah, so dual use, great. That unlocks 3 markets, right? Passenger, military, and freight. Fantastic. But make no mistake, this is a commercial demonstration. What happens when we fly this aircraft in 2 years? We're demonstrating 30% aerodynamic efficiency. And again, this is what Guillaume was referencing. He's running the biggest aircraft company in the world, and he said, SAF is great, but that's more further. We've come to realize that's further down the road. And what's today? What's today is use efficiency to lower the input, the energy input, and therefore the cost input. It's going to make future propulsion more attainable. It's the best first step towards zero emissions, which is part of our name. But we're not just building a plane, we're building a company. And so zero also refers to the fact that this is a 0 to 1 enterprise.
Tom, it's been a pleasure working with you as an advisor to you. And thank you for joining us today and sharing the vision.
Thanks so much.